It was a big lamb, but once the position was correct, it delivered easily. Duncan cursed under his breath. He hated to lose a lamb unnecessarily, and he considered this an unnecessary loss. He moved a few yards away to where he could see another ewe in labour. She was an old lady of the flock and had lambed many times before. He hesitated, guessing that she would need neither his presence nor his help. The cold air bit at his nose and fingers. He glanced across to the ewe with her dead lamb. If he left now, he would miss the opportunity to put a spare lamb to her, and if this sheep was to give birth to more than one, it made sense to put one of them to the first ewe. Years of experience told him that both lambs would stand a better chance of survival that way, especially with the weather being so cold. He caught hold of her and dragged her into the fold where the first ewe was resting. He was right to stay. The first birth was rapid, the lamb slithering wetly into a heap on the grass. Duncan pulled away the vestiges of membrane still clinging around its head and inserted his finger into its mouth to clear the passages of blood and slime and stimulate it to breathe. Then he stood back and watched as the mother licked and nuzzled her baby until it stood swaying on bended legs and uttered a first pitiful bleat. Then she lay down and laboured again. All around him, the silence was intense. Even the stream seemed hushed. The ewe strained without a murmur, her breath, like his, forming dense clouds in the freezing air. Duncan stamped his feet in an effort to encourage some feeling back into them. He cupped his hands round his mouth and blew gently. The newborn stumbled in the grass, struggling to stay upright, its body convulsed with shivers. The shepherd frowned. What was taking the ewe so long? At last, he knelt behind her and sunk his hand and arm into the womb, trying to make sense of the jumble of legs that he encountered. Finally, he found a head. It was bent back on the neck in such a way as to cause an obstruction. She would never lamb with it in this position. Carefully, he untwisted the head and felt around for the two front legs, which he pulled to the outside. With another push, the lamb was out, lying at the side of its complaining twin. Quickly, he inserted his finger into its mouth and ran it across and round its tongue. It stirred, shook its head, and bleated. The ewe turned and gently butted her lamb, encouraging it to stand. Duncan pulled on the mother's teats, and the first of the twins nuzzled into her side. The gimmer still stood by her dead lamb. Taking hold of the lifeless lamb by its legs, Duncan left the shelter of the fold and, by the light of the hurricane lamp, quickly skinned the carcass. He cut holes for the legs, returned to the fold, and fitted the skin onto the back of the second twin. It was an uneven pairing, and the little coat trailed behind the lamb as it struggled to walk. He picked it up by its front legs and placed it next to the childless ewe. Then he left them together and stood on the other side of the wall to watch. He had not long to wait before his action had the desired effect. The gimmer sniffed the lamb and licked it, recognising the smell of her own lamb, and after several futile attempts, the lamb found the warm teat and began to suckle. Duncan gave a contented smile. The lamb's struggles were by no means over, but it looked as if the two would bond. He would leave them together in the fold and check on them at first light. Reaching for his lamp, he began to trudge back to the cottage, feeling happier now that he had saved the life of the lamb and probably its mother. Once inside, he unlaced and removed his boots and hung his coat on the back of the door. He stood for a moment in the quiet darkness, savouring the warmth, and then padded in stockinged feet into the kitchen. A bucket of water stood on the floor in front of the sink, a necessary precaution on nights such as these, when water from the gill often froze solid in the pipes. From the draining board, he took a bar of soap and washed his freezing hands and arms in the even colder water. In the parlour, the coals of the fire still glowed red. Crouching down on his haunches in front of the hearth, he tried to coax life into his numb fingers. He could imagine Janet's words if he should climb into bed and attempt to touch her with his cold hands and feet. At the thought of her warm, soft body, he stood and hastily pulled off his shirt and trousers before searching for the handle of the bedroom door. Her gentle breathing indicated that she was asleep, but as the bed springs